This is Optimal Living Daily, episode 75, The Deadly Truth Behind Healthy Kosher Salt and Commercial Sea Salt, and How to Tell If Your Salt is Refined, by Ben Greenfield of bengreenfieldfitness.com.
Get ready to maximize your potential with Optimal Living Daily, the podcast that brings you the best in personal development and productivity every day of the week. Your optimal life awaits. Now here's your host, Justin Malik.
Hello and welcome to Optimal Living Daily, or the old podcast. I'm Justin Malik with another episode of Wellness Wednesday. I need some wellness right now. I'm feeling a bit under the weather, but hopefully I can make it through this podcast episode without hurting the quality too much for you. You know, I can't take breaks having a daily show, otherwise I become an untrustworthy source, and I can't let that happen. So I'm pushing through and going to do my best to not miss an episode, in sickness and in health. And if you'd like to support the show, today all I'm asking is that you subscribe if you haven't already. By subscribing to the podcast, you'll get updates with the newest episodes, so it'll be easier to make this 10-minute or so podcast part of your daily routine, and you'll be well on your way to optimizing your life. I've been doing this for 2.5 months now, today being exactly 3/4 of the way to my second milestone of 100 episodes. And by doing this for that long, I feel like I've already learned so much and optimized my life in multiple ways, and you can too. So just hit that subscribe button and we'll keep improving our lives together. So let's get right to it, read this Wellness Wednesday post, and start optimizing your life. The Deadly Truth Behind Healthy Kosher Salt and Commercial Sea Salt, and How to Tell If Your Salt is Refined, by Ben Greenfield of bengreenfieldfitness.com. I eat a lot of salt. On most days, I eat 2 to 3 teaspoons a day sprinkled over food or into smoothies, soups, and salads. And on days that I sweat heavily, visit the sauna, or sleep on my infrared biomat, I often increase my salt intake to up to 6 teaspoons per day. That's kind of drastic considering the CDC recommends sticking to about 1/2 to 1 teaspoons of salt per day maximum. So why do I eat so darn much salt? In the article, Is That Grain of Salt Really Killing Your Insides?, I give 4 reasons for my salt fanaticism, including: Number 1, there is zero evidence to support a drastic reduction in sodium intake. Number 2, reducing sodium intake can have unintended health risks. Number 3, your total potassium levels and your sodium to potassium ratio are what is actually important for heart health. Number 4, big food industry's interpretation of public health recommendations to reduce sodium intake can have a dangerous impact. I'd highly recommend you go read that article to delve into the details of each of those 4 reasons listed above. In this article, you're going to discover the truth behind, quote, healthy kosher salt and commercial sea salt, how to tell if your salt is refined, and what kind of salt you should be eating. The deadly truth behind healthy kosher salt and commercial sea salt. You may have heard how, quote, sea salt is better for you than regular refined table salt, but what about kosher salt? The term kosher salt comes from its use in making meats kosher by removing surface blood. So in truth, nearly all salt is kosher salt, including ordinary refined table salt. Kosher salt is actually manufactured with a grain size larger than table salt grains, and is otherwise completely identical to refined table salt. Rather than cubic crystals, kosher salt has a flat platelet shape. Salt crystals are forced into this shape under pressure or are grown flat in an evaporative process. Then the kosher salt is dried in order to absorb the moisture in koshering and allow the salt to flow freely. This is why most big brand kosher salts you see in the store are refined, and they taste like it too. What that means is, kosher salt, and most other commercial sea salts, have had all minerals and moisture stripped away. Kosher salt and most other commercial sea salts manufacturers use sulfuric acid and chlorine to bleach the salt white. Kosher salt and other commercial sea salts are made in a way so that it is an impossibly high 99.7% purity. Now you may be wondering, what's wrong with 99.7% purity? Isn't that good? Not really. When you strip salt of its minerals and then you eat it, your body doesn't, quote, get it. Refined salt is toxic without its minerals. It's unnatural. So your body treats it like a foreign substance, generating all the health issues I talked about in my last article on salt. Ironically, salt manufacturers would actually make salt 100% pure, but that last 0.03% is for the anti-caking agents. That's the stuff that makes table salt flow out of your salt shaker. The problem is that anti-caking agents are essentially heavy metals, which are extremely toxic to your body. Just take a look at their names: sodium ferrocyanide, ammonium citrate, and aluminum silicate. Did you notice the poison, cyanide, and the chemical people clean bathrooms with, ammonia? Why do the big name salt makers do this? In 2 words, shelf life. In 1 word, profit. What's more, the FDA allows them to have as much as 2% of your table salt be comprised of anti-caking and free-flowing agents. But that's not all. The worst part is that some of them have caught on to America's health craze and now put the sea salt healthy label on their boxes. However, this is all just a marketing ploy. Commercial sea salt may come from the sea, but ultimately it has been refined just as much as regular table salt. In contrast, real, unrefined salt is moist, soft, and clumpy. Sure, this is inconvenient for our modern salt shakers and fancy store-bought tubes and canisters, but ultimately, if your salt isn't moist, soft, and clumpy, you shouldn't be eating it. So how else can you tell if your salt is unhealthy and refined? How to tell if your salt is refined? There are 3 simple salt tests you can do in the comfort of your own home. Test number 1, look at the salt. Is the salt an unnatural, perfect uniform white? If so, it was probably chemically bleached in some way. Natural salt has an off-white color due to the trace minerals found in it. Test number 2, shake it out. Is the salt fine and free-flowing? If it comes out of a salt shaker effortlessly, it's safe to assume the salt was processed with anti-caking agents. Real salt is moist, soft, and doesn't pour when it rains. Test number 3, is it sold in a box or tube? Salt sold in a cardboard box or tube are dry and probably have had anti-caking agents added so that the salt won't absorb moisture and ruin the package. The truth is that most big brand salts in the store are indeed refined and won't pass those 3 tests above. What kind of salt you should be eating? So if our body needs salt to live, but table salt, commercial sea salt, and even koshering salt has toxins in it, what's left? Simple. We go back to how salt was made 150 years ago before it became industrialized. We eat unrefined sea salt made the way it was meant to be. Now, you may be thinking that unrefined sea salt means gourmet, expensive, and hard to get, but the fact is that I keep my pantry chock full of silver and black bags of Aztec sea salt. This salt comes from La Laguna de Cuyatlan, the same place in Mexico where the Aztecs got their salt over 500 years ago. Traditional saluneros, salt farmers, continue to harvest this salt using an organic, 100% renewable process, evaporated naturally by the sun, to protect the environment and wildlife. Yes, it's slightly off color. Yes, it's soft, it's moist, and it clumps. And yes, it tastes far different than any other salt. It literally explodes with flavor. But I know when I'm eating this stuff that I'm avoiding toxins, I'm avoiding chemicals, I'm eating clean, real stuff, and I'm getting over 80 trace minerals for metabolic function, adrenal recovery, and athletic performance. You just listened to the post titled, The Deadly Truth Behind Healthy Kosher Salt and Commercial Sea Salt and How to Tell If Your Salt is Refined by Ben Greenfield at bengreenfieldfitness.com. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before, but I'm no expert on nutrition, so if you disagree with something, totally understand. What I try to do here is find credible sources, and to me, Ben Greenfield is one of many. He has a lot of credentials, and he backs up his articles with science. But I always recommend you do what works best for you and your body, and always be careful before making any sudden changes based on one person's perspective. The last thing I want to do is have a negative impact on your health. And speaking of negative impacts on health, I've been a bit under the weather lately, so I'm keeping this one short so I can get some rest. But before I go, if you want to support the show, you can join my free weekly newsletter or contribute to the show to help keep it going, or both, on my site, oldpodcast.com. So please check that out, and that's my way of knowing that you like the show. That's episode 75. I'll see you tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.
You've been listening to Optimal Living Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.